just 19 years old, he stood in a courtroom filled with people who already believed he was guilty. The judge leaned back with a smirk, the prosecutor shuffled through papers with confidence, and the gallery whispered about how this one's already over. The evidence looked airtight. A bag, a witness statement, and a series of photographs painted Jalen as a criminal. On paper, it looked impossible to fight. But what no one knew, what no one expected, was that Jalen had been preparing for this moment his entire life. He didn't have a team of expensive lawyers. He didn't have experts, flashy suits, or money to buy influence. What he did have was his knowledge, his memory, and his voice. When the prosecutor declared, "This case is open and shut," Jalen stood. His voice didn't shake. He asked the court for permission to speak on his own behalf. Some laughed quietly, thinking it was youthful arrogance. But then Jalen began to question everything. One by one, he pulled apart the so-called evidence. The bag, it wasn't even tested for fingerprints. The witness, they had changed their story 3 times. The photographs, dated in a way that proved they couldn't have matched the timeline the prosecution insisted on. Each detail, each question, each piece of logic chipped away at the case that once looked unbreakable. The smirk on the judge's face faded. The prosecutor stopped flipping pages. The whispers in the gallery turned into stunned silence. By the time Jalen finished, the story had flipped completely. The courtroom was in tea, looking at a guilty man fighting for excuses. They were looking at a young man exposing cracks in a system that was supposed to be fair. The judge leaned forward, no longer smug, but serious. After a long pause, he delivered words no one had expected to hear. Case dismissed. Gasps filled the room. Jalen had done what everyone thought was impossible. At 19 years old, he had defended himself, dismantled the case against him, and walked out free. But this story isn't just about one trial. It's about how fragile justice can be when people assume, when evidence is sloppy, and when the system forgets to treat everyone equally. It's about how a single voicey van when young, underestimated, and alonken changed the entire course of a courtroom. Jalen Dawson proved that sometimes the most powerful defense doesn't come from wealth, power, or status. It comes from courage. The courage to stand, to speak, and to demand the truth. And in that courtroom, a 19-year-old reminded everyone that justice isn't given. It's fought for.